time to shake the dust off and begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to Shift Your Story. It's your host, Lucy Price. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode here at Shift Your Story. Today, we are talking about if you can still be friends with your ex after a breakup, after a divorce, after a separation. Is it still possible to be friends with your ex? Now, this is one of those topics that has caveats to it, has nuances to it, but just to kind of TLDR, answer the question, yes, I do think that it is possible to still be friends with your ex and just friends with your ex. I personally have exes that I am either friends with or friendly with. Not all of my exes are friends, but I do from experience believe that is possible. And I have some thoughts around what makes it possible to be friends with an ex versus what makes it really, really difficult or not possible to be friends with an ex. So we're going to be talking about a few different things today. But really, the only kind of, yes, you can still be friends with your ex without having to think about too many things that I really have for you. Like the one with the least amount of caveats and nuances of can you still be friends with your ex is if you started off as friends and you were exploring what a romantic relationship could look like. So if both parties, you and your ex or you and your friend, if you were friends before the romantic relationship and you weren't dating for a very long time, maybe a month or two or three or something like that, and you just realize that you're really a better fit as friends, I do think that transition back to being friends can be easier than not. Easier than if you were dating this person as a partner first, or if there were only romantic feelings building up to the relationship. I think that's the only one here off of my notes that I can fully say, yes, that's probably an easy transition back to being friends. There are still things to consider. There are still things to think about, such as have both of you not had those feelings for each other, those romantic feelings for each other, or is this one person saying that it doesn't feel good? There are things to think about. But right off the bat, that's the only one here that I have without these bullet points or caveats. You know what I mean. But without these things to think about going into that transition back to a friendship. But I kind of want to break it down for you today of different things that you should consider and different things that I would recommend you do to help make that transition back to friendship possible and healthy. Really make that transition a secure transition, yes, for you and also for your ex. So the first thing I have here is I think that when we are trying to be friends with our exes, sometimes we can try and be friends too soon. And what I mean by that is sometimes that when we're in the breakup feelings, when we are in the heartbreak feelings, when we are struggling in moving on from a relationship, we might try and convince ourselves that we can go through the breakup with our ex. And we disguise that as, can we still be friends? But really what's happening is there's a part of us, there's a part of our heart, there's a part of our ego that is trying to grip onto the relationship with the ex and is trying to have some relationship in some way with them. But when we try and be friends too soon, when we try and have that relationship without fully grieving, we just don't give ourselves a chance to mourn the relationship fully. And oftentimes it's because our brain is trying to still stay attached to the relationship, but disguise the feelings as something else, disguise the feelings as friendship, as opposed to the heart sickness that is coming up during the breakup period. So with that being said, I do still recommend taking some time apart, take some time to go no contact with your ex. So that looks like not messaging them. That looks like not hanging out with them. That looks like not following them on social media. That looks like taking all of their things in your house and putting it in a box and putting all the photos into a folder with a password on your phone, and just taking some time to be separated, taking some time to really allow yourself to feel the loss and to mourn the relationship and to mourn the romantic sides of the relationship so that you can transition into a friendship. This gives you some time to really work through any feelings that might come up without then projecting it onto the friendship later, without then taking and harboring those feelings into a relationship with your ex going forward. But you've got to give yourself a chance to process. You've got to give yourself a chance to feel what you're feeling without making it wrong, and go through that journey of being single again and being on your own again. That can be a really beautiful journey, but if you're really latching on and trying to preserve a relationship because you're afraid to let go with the relationship, then it's not going to have the space it needs to transition into a true friendship with your ex. You've got to give yourself a chance to grieve. You've got to give yourself a chance to mourn the loss of the relationship and get used to being single again. And so I do recommend, regardless, if both of you do want to transition into a friendship, because it has to be a two-way street too. Your ex also has to be on board with the friendship thing. In order for that to happen, give yourself a chance to fully grieve what the relationship was so that you can come to the friendship from a fresh, secure place. In saying that, if you're transitioning to a friendship with your ex, you have to be able to let things go. You have to be able to let any past hurt or resentment go. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't get to perhaps have some conversations of closure with your ex, which you do not need to talk to get closure. Caveat, you do not need that. But it might be helpful if you're transitioning to the friendship. It doesn't mean you don't get to have those conversations. It just means that you're going to have to be able to put some of the past resentments or hurt to bed. You can't go into a friendship. Well, you can, but it's not going to be very healthy. It's not going to feel very good to go into a friendship with all of these past resentments and pains and harborings from the romantic relationship before. So that's a question that you have to ask yourself to some degree. Do you think that you can let things go? Do you think that you can move on from different aspects that caused you to end the romantic relationship? Is that possible for you at this current point in time? And don't make yourself wrong if the answer is no. It just means that maybe it's not the time right now to start having a friendship with your ex. Maybe you need a little bit more space. Maybe you need to do a little bit more healing or inner work or process things. And jumping into a friendship might not actually be the best thing for you right now. I also think that if you are going to start up a friendship with somebody, you have to let go of the chance of getting back together. That can't be in the back of your mind of, oh, we're just friends, but maybe we'll get back together at some point. Oh, we're just friends, but really I'm still harboring all of this love for you. And I'm still kind of hoping that at some point we will be back together and that we will be in a relationship again, but we can be friends for now. I really recommend that if you are going to step into a friendship with somebody, to let the romantic feelings fade and to let the chance of being back in a relationship, a romantic relationship with them, fade. Let go of there being a chance of you guys getting back together. Now, I know there might be someone sitting here thinking, but what if you do get back together, or isn't that still possible? And yes, it's still possible. Yes, you can be friends with someone for a long time and decide to give it another go. But the chances of that happen, you can't make that assumption. You can't make that assumption. And I think that you've got to be prepared for that not happening if you are really fully going to engage in a friendship with somebody. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who were friends with their ex and then learned that their ex was still secretly hoping they would get back together, and how hard that was for them, and how hurtful it was for them, and how much it felt like they were put in this awkward position because they didn't feel the same way and they didn't want the same things. And all of that is to say that, yes, is it possible? Sure, absolutely it's possible, but it's not going to be a healthy mindset for you to go into a friendship with. It's not going to be a healthy spot for your heart to be in if you're entering into a friendship from that place, because it's almost like setting things up in a way where you just get hurt, and it's just not setting things up in a way for a successful friendship to grow and for two people to really feel at ease in the friendship with each other without feeling there's some kind of hidden motive or hidden feelings beneath the surface. Along with that, your ex is going to date again. Your ex is going to date. Your ex is going to meet people. Your ex is probably going to have a relationship with somebody else. Do you feel at this point that you are going to be able to handle that? Now, the first few times you see your ex with somebody else, of course, that's going to bring up feelings. And yes, you get to process them, and none of that is wrong. I'm not saying that you don't get to have feelings, even as a friend of loss, because feelings come and go, and feelings might come up at times you don't expect them. But it's just one of those things that the elephants in the room, they are going to date again. And do you think you can handle it? Do you think that you can be a friend in those moments? Not making whatever answer pops up right or wrong, and not meaning that you're not allowed to have feelings later on. It's just, this is part of moving on from a relationship, is that you date again, is that you have relationships again. And if you're friends with your ex, that's going to be part of the friendship at some point. So do you think you can handle it? Do you think that you're ready to be friends knowing that that will happen? Do you think you'll be able to process any feelings that are coming up in a way that's healthy for you, and in a way that doesn't project anything onto your ex? Now, if you don't feel like you're quite ready to handle that, that's okay. It just means that there's an opportunity here for you to learn a little bit more about yourself and what you need at this time. Part of the reason I bring that up is because when I talk to either my clients or my friends about exes who have moved on and they are still friends with those exes, but they are dating again and they are seeing other people, part of the hurt that comes up, even just as friends, is the feelings of, why couldn't they do that when we were in a relationship together? Why did they change for this person and not for me? Why couldn't they be this way in our relationship? And just those feelings that come up after witnessing them with someone else, after they've moved on from the breakup. And here's the thing. Oh, this could be a whole podcast episode in and of itself. But here's the thing. Sometimes it takes different experiences and different growth arcs for people to change in relationships or to show up different in relationships. But that doesn't mean it has anything negative against you. That doesn't mean that you weren't good enough, but our brains will try and tell us that we weren't good enough, because if we were good enough, then they would have done that for me in the relationship. And that's just not true. That's not true. And so part of being able to be friends with your ex is also being able to work through those stories and work through those feelings when they come up, and not make yourself the person who is wronged, and not make yourself the person and not make it mean that you weren't good enough, and not make it mean that you weren't worthy of receiving something like that in the relationship when you were together. It just means that sometimes it takes time for different things to settle in for people, or different experiences to bring those aspects that maybe you would have liked to see in your own relationship but didn't. Sometimes it takes some different things to bring those out, and they take that into future relationships. But don't make it mean anything about you. Don't make it mean that anything is wrong with you, because nothing's wrong with you. And it doesn't mean that you didn't deserve that, and doesn't mean that you don't deserve that, and it doesn't mean that you weren't worthy enough. It just means a different set of circumstances brought that out in your ex for this new person. But that can be really hard to navigate when you have a friendship with them. Now, to get into some more of the practicalities of having a friendship with an ex, the biggest thing that I'm going to talk about here is, one, being able to manage your own thoughts and feelings. You have to be able to manage your own thoughts and feelings if you're going to go into a friendship with an ex, just because things are going to come up, and you've got to have the tools and the regulation and the mind management to be able to support yourself through those challenging times. But also, communication and boundaries with your ex is going to be key here. It's going to be key in making this friendship successful. And so in the realm of communication and boundaries, I would very much recommend you sitting down with your ex, soon to be friend, and talk about, okay, what do both of you need to be able to relax and show up as friends in the relationship? What does friendship actually look like to both of you? And does that match what the other person wants? What expectations do you have of friendships in the relationship? What expectation do you have of each other as just friends? And what information is the other person privy to and not privy to now that you are just friends? Really have those conversations. Really introspect for yourself what those things are for you. Because oftentimes, again, going back to the very start of this podcast episode, sometimes we jump into relationships and we jump into friendships with our exes because we're trying to grip onto them as people. We are afraid to let them go, to let any kind of relationship with them go. And it actually results in either more pain happening when we're not able to think about these things and we're not able to really determine what we want and what friendship looks like and what moving on and grieving looks like. It means that more pain is likely to occur. More bumps in the roads are likely to occur. And you can avoid it, is the thing. And you can avoid most of them by being really conscientious about what you need for yourself and what is making you want to have a friendship with your ex. And then also being really conscientious of being able to communicate those expectations, those desires, and those boundaries with your ex. And again, make sure it also matches up to what they want. Because if two people end up wanting different things, then it's going to be a very mismatched energy. And again, it just might cause some trouble down the road. So do I think you can be friends with your ex? Yes, absolutely. Again, I have friends who I have beautiful friendships with, and I don't have any of the romantic feelings, and I genuinely just enjoy their company and want what's best for them. I have exes who I'm friendly with and could easily go out for a drink and have no problem sitting and having a lovely chat with them. And I also have some exes where I know it would not be healthy for me to engage in a friendship because of either some of the things that happened in the relationship in the past, or some of the knowledge that we don't necessarily want the same things in a friendship, and it just wouldn't be very helpful or a good use of either of our time or energy. And so, yes, it is absolutely possible, but be aware of why you want the friendship and be honest with yourself about why you want the friendship. And then really think about what the friendship looks like to you and what would need to be set up in order for the friendship to be healthy and in order for both you and your ex to feel secure and confident in the friendship. I have a couple of announcements here for us at the end. I do have a couple of one-on-one coaching spots available. So this is for the person who is going through a breakup or going through a divorce right now. Maybe you don't feel like yourself. Maybe you feel like you've lost sight of who you are. You're struggling with the pain of heartbreak. You're struggling to focus at work. You're struggling to feel like yourself again and feel secure in your relationships. Maybe you're fearing that you're never going to find somebody, that you're only ever going to fall for the quote unquote wrong people, and you're never going to feel that safe, fulfilling love that you're looking for. If that sounds like you, if you're struggling with that self-love, with that healing, I want to invite you into one-on-one coaching. In one-on-one coaching, we go deep into looking at your mindset, looking at your emotional regulation, and looking at what relationship tools you have in your back pocket right now, and really reconfiguring your mindset, your emotional regulation, and your tools to support you in cultivating and creating the life and the relationship that you want. Not only the loving relationship with yourself, but also going back out into the world of dating and into the worlds of relationships, and really feeling secure and confident that you'll be able to handle whatever comes your way and enjoy the love that you cultivate. So if that is something that sounds appealing to you, it sounds interesting to you, you want to learn more about it, go ahead to my website, www.shiftyourstory.net, and click the Call Me button on the right, and we'll set up a time to chat, and you can just ask me questions about what coaching is and what coaching could do for you. I look forward to talking with you. If you just came for the episode, I really am grateful that you took the time to listen, and I hope this was of service, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Bye.
So make whatever change you need to make.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If something resonated with you in today's episode, if you could leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps other people learn what we're all about here at Shift Your Story, and it helps this podcast reach listeners who may need to hear what it is that we have to say. If you would like to connect with me or work with me, you can visit my website at www.shiftyourstory.net. You can also find all of my socials on there so you can connect with me in the way that works best for you. I'll see you next time.